Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show. My guest today is Dr. Margeret Price, who was born in Trinidad and Tobago and who moved to England and trained to be a nurse, a mental health nurse, and a midwife. After that, she settled in Canada, where she rose to be the Dean of Nursing and Health Sciences, all before the age of 40. And then she received a calling to be of service to the world, and that led her to work in the Caribbean, Africa, and the Middle East, and travel across at least 17 countries serving her community. Dr. Mackenzie, it's a pleasure to see you. How are you today?
Oh, I am fine, thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you here. How are you?
I am fine, thank you.
So we are speaking in the UK, but you're over visiting from Canada. Do you live in Canada at the moment?
Yes.
And how are you?
I'm Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, and how are you enjoying your time in the UK?
My visit? Well, so far fine, except the weather yesterday didn't. Well, it was typical
English weather. It was
yeah.
it was raining yesterday.
Yes.
We've had a summer of absolute joy and warmth, but yesterday was torrential rain.
Yes, but the ground needed it. I think the trees definitely needed it, and the grass. So,
Dr. Price, you have written a book called My Incredible Life Journey. But before we talk about that, tell us a little bit about how you, about your life story and how you came to write the book.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, I was born in Tobago, grew up and had my foundation there, then moved to England, found myself as a person here, then moved to Canada and developed my skills as a professional further, and also the need to serve. So I made the decision, which was a very hard decision at the time, but I trusted in the Lord to give up being a dean and to move to serve in different countries. At the first time, it was with the World Health Organization. I was doing something that was needed because the islands were small and they could not afford to have a training program in each island. So they were brought together and I was asked to help prepare them to teach in their various professions, various health professions. So I went to Barbados. And then after that, I went to Guyana, where I worked with the Caribbean Secretariat, CARICOM Secretariat, and served in the less developed countries in CARICOM and Barbados. And at the same time, I was able to develop my skills and pass through the United States and got a doctorate in public administration.
Wow.
And since that is what I was doing, it helped me very much to apply. So throughout my life, it's been a growth of professionally as was needed, and spiritually as absolutely was needed. Because I didn't start off my life thinking that I was going to, serving my neighbor was going to be my #1 priority, but at this moment, it is still my #1 priority.
You've had a wonderful life, which started, well, it didn't start, it started in Trinidad and Tobago, but you came to the UK and trained. And so, you know, my parents are from Jamaica, so I have a Caribbean heritage. What was it like to come to the UK? Did you come in the 50s or the 60s?
I came in the 50s. I was with the early bunch of post-war people who I guess came to the UK. And it was okay. I think there were a few of us, and those of us who went into the health professions were really welcome. They needed, we were needed, and accepted. We felt accepted, sort of, by some people, but by enough people to not feel that you're out of it. And so it was not a bad experience. It was a growth experience for me.
You settled in the Midlands. You settled in Nottingham to do training. Did you do all of your training in Nottingham?
No, I did my midwifery in London. I did my midwifery at Guy's Hospital in London, part 1 and part 2 in Hackney. So that was those were the last training that I did in England before moving to Canada.
Oh, wow. But your intention was to go back to Trinidad and Tobago. So how come you ended up in Canada?
Well, what can I say? I felt that, well, I did go back, okay? And I waited for 3 months to get my registration done and things like that. And it didn't happen. But before I went back, a director of nursing came from Canada to England to recruit nurses. And a friend of mine encouraged me to go with her. So I went and I did the interview. And of course I was offered a job. So when I couldn't get an appointment after 3 months in Trinidad waiting, I decided that I'd better go to Canada. Maybe the Lord's saying to me, this is not what I wanted to do. So I went on to Canada, and I've never regretted that decision. Although I've tried to return to Trinidad a couple more times to work, but it somehow doesn't seem to be what I'm supposed to do.
It's really interesting, isn't it? So I suppose from the Caribbean sort of migrant experience around whether it's possible economically and for lots of reasons to go back. I think the intention is to go back, isn't it? But sometimes that's quite difficult to do. And I think you utilize the opportunities that were available to you, but you have actually in a maybe in a longer way than was intended, you've actually managed to sort of like give back to those communities, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I'm back to Trinidad half-time.
Yes.
To Tobago half-time. I hope it would be for good, but I don't know.
Well, it's good for now, isn't it? That's the main thing.
Yeah, I told myself, I don't know if the Lord moved me back there so I could write this book. And then what is going to happen to me after I write the book, I don't know. So that's what I mean. But I'm 86 years old now, and I'm flexible and able to move and able to concentrate.
That's amazing.
To continue to contribute. So I'm willing to do that.
So what inspired you at 86 to write your book?
Well, I had a friend who unfortunately has passed, but she used to come and visit me. I made her a friend when I became director of nursing at London Psychiatric Hospital in Canada. And she would come and visit me wherever I was in the world. And when I was in Ghana, she came a few times, and I would come and stay with her. She became like my sister. And she kept on saying, Margaret, you've got to write your life story. It's going to be helpful to write it. So I thought, well, I'd check with my sisters and see what they thought. And they thought, yeah, do it. So I wrote it. I started writing it. I had no idea as to how it was going to turn out, interestingly enough, because I thought I would just write about my professional experience. But it turned out that it's about my professional, my spiritual, my social, and it shows how intertwined they are, how we can grow at the same time, spiritually, as we go physically, as we go socially, and as we go professionally. And they can all be intertwined and feed into one another.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in your book, you talk about your spiritual journey and your love of God, and also your love of your neighbour is really important, is essential to your success. And tell me a little bit about that.
Well, you know, as a Christian, we tend we talk about love of God, but if we listen, it also, Jesus summed up everything into the love of God and love of your neighbor, loving him as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important because to your neighbor you give, to your neighbor you show love, and you receive love. And then you know that you're really loving when you can, you're really following Christ, at least, when you can give and receive that love and see that the love you give is bearing fruits.
Mm-hmm.
So not just you giving it to someone who throws it away or whatever, but that it bears fruits. And so that's how I see it. And so in the chapter in the book on legacy, there is confirmation that I think that my love of neighbor has borne fruit, and I hope will continue to bear fruit, because the children whom I raised or helped to raise, they were just needing just a little hand, and a little support to get them to move to where they were supposed to go or to be. I have, as you would see in the chapter on legacy, I have children whom I have who call me, well, mom or Auntie Margaret, but when they write to me, they call me mom, or when they talk to me, they call me mom, because they receive that motherly love from me. And I have children who are a priest, one Pentecostal minister. I have Rasta children. I have children who have become, one is becoming a doctor. That's one of the reasons I'm going back to Ghana. One has got a doctorate in Japan, and these are orphans. So it's important to love your neighbor. Unfortunately, I didn't give birth to any children, but I've learned that you really don't have to give birth to be a mother.
Yeah. And you talk about parenting being so important, and you've been able to do that with lots of different children.
Yes, and I think that I give credit to my parents for that, because they brought me up with a sense of responsibility and accountability. And you know, that sense, that feeling of loving and giving and sharing was all part of a very close community in which I grew up in Tobago. You know, my mother was always helping or sending food for someone, and everybody gave when they had anything extra, like when there's fruits and things like that, they shared. And so sharing just seemed to be a natural part of my growing up. So when I had to put it together to help others, it was not such a bad idea. And I remembered my parents. And so I think that if parents must realize that children copy them without even knowing that they're copying them. So if the parent is negative and always complaining and things like that, they cannot expect to have a child who's positive, who grows up with a positive mindset. It doesn't work that way, because we learn from our parents.
Definitely. Now, we had a chat yesterday, didn't we? And you believe that it's that regardless of your status, your color, your race, your origin, it's possible to make it to the top of your profession, as long as you have a goal and you want to do it. Tell me a little bit why that has, because you've done it, and tell me a little bit about why you have that philosophy.
Well, I believe that everyone has potential.
Mm-hmm.
They have potential for different things. One of the unfortunate things is that maybe at school and the way the education system was set up, a lot of people who didn't academically do well, even though they had technical skills and skills that would take them to the top of, whether they were a carpenter or plumber or whatever, felt left out or looked down on. But I think that how you're built, how you, and I say how you're built, the foundation that you get at home and the self-confidence that you can enter the world with is basic. If you have a goal, if you know that you want to become someone, you have to make that constantly before you, okay? And you have to decide, well, okay, there's so many other things to attract your way. Are you going to do those things, or are you going to more or less stick to your goal? If you have the self-confidence that you have that ability, then I think it certainly strengthens you to move along. There are going to be obstacles, but there's nothing. Life is not supposed to be easy. As it's not a rose garden. Even the rose garden has thorns. All right, so you're going to have challenges, and the point about it is that you have to learn to cope with the challenges and to accept them and to learn from them so that you can grow. If you let the challenges defeat you, and you give up, then you're not going to get anywhere.
So I think what you're saying is it's important to remain positive, yeah, and keep going and be resilient and consistent, I guess, with with what your goals are. How do you? I always ask my guests, how do they stay focused, positive, productive? And it's really clear that you have been focused, positive, productive. How do you manage to do that?
Well, I can't say I don't know. What happens is that prayer. I have this thing of, I always ask the Lord, what now? Why is this happening? And I take whatever challenge I am facing to the Lord rather than try to solve it all by myself. And so when I take it, I've learned that, okay, He's either going to deal with it right away, or maybe the way I want to deal with it, I could deal with it, or He's going to say, no, that's not it. So it's accepting that yes, no, or not now is essential to growth. Because I think we all have had experiences which seem to, things have gone wrong, and we want those things to go right. But if they did, we would find later on, or when they did not go right, we find later on that that's the best thing that happened to you. So you just have to accept that some things are not going to work out. Like, you know, in interpersonal relationships, or some relationships, well, was not supposed to be. You know, I when I look at my life, I think of the relationships, some relationships that I've had that didn't work out. And I look back and I say, thank goodness they didn't work out. You know, so that's how it is. So you stay positive. I just somehow, I don't know if it's not in my nature, or what, or I've learned not to be negative, because it destroys.
Yeah. And you also say not to let others define you, which I think you're saying about the relationships, because it's about you. And that actually leads on to another thing you say is when you do good, you do it for yourself.
Yes. And I think it's not just a saying, it's a reality.
Uh-huh.
When you help others and you see them thrive or whatever, you feel so good. You're happy.
Yes.
And there's a certain joy that you get that, well, you cannot explain to everyone, but you definitely feel much better. And and when you see it bear fruits, you're so happy. I think that's the whole thing. So when you're doing good, you really are doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for the person that, it comes back to you.
I love that. I love the fact that and I really believe it's true, actually, when you're helping others, when you serve, when you sort of like help without any expectation of reciprocation, the actual benefits come back to you, many times, don't they, in different ways, and sometimes in ways that you don't expect.
Exactly.
As well. Has that been your experience?
Yes, definitely. And and the reward might not be, well, at least you're not expecting it from the person you give it to, because they can't reciprocate.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's so many other benefits that you receive, that you realize that, okay, it's the Lord giving it to you, and the more you give, the more you get.
Definitely. Definitely. Now, so your book, how do you get hold of your book? When was it published, and how do you get hold of it?
It was published late last year.
Mm-hmm.
Or early this year, I got the first copy of it. I have a website called Dr Price. That's Dr Price at .com, sorry. So if I could repeat that, it's drmprice.com.
Yes, and we'll put that in the show notes, and it's also available on Amazon as well.
It's available on Amazon. Well, in Canada, in the United States, there are more sites, and in Canada, we have more things. But at this moment, in the United Kingdom, it's Amazon.
Okay, brilliant. So the podcast goes out all over the world, so you'll be able to get the book, and we'll put how that's available in the show notes as well. Dr. Price, it's been wonderful to talk to you. I ask all my guests, and I think you are the most mature guest I will have. You've told us that you are 86 years old. You've traveled all over the world. You've risen to the top of your profession. And I ask all of my guests, how do you manage your health and well-being? Because you look amazing, and you look very well on it. So what's your secret?
I think not to worry so much. That's how I see it.
Yes.
When you take things to the Lord, you leave it there. You don't worry about it. So I don't go around frowning and worrying about the situation. I know that, okay, he's going to show me a way to solve it. So I'm waiting for the solution. And you wait in anticipation. You don't wait fretting. So that's the one thing. And then, of course, what I hadn't told you is that since 1990, I've been diagnosed as diabetic. And I've paid attention to my diet and to exercise and to rest and all the positive things that we're told that we should do, but we tend not to do. We can find excuses to sit and watch television rather than go for a walk, and things like that. And the challenge of going out and everybody's eating sweets, and definitely, sweets are nice, but you know that it's not good for you. And so we all know what's not good for us, or we're told what's not good for us, but unfortunately, it's a mind over matter situation. And so I try to let my mind control that desire to
Mhm.
do what is not good for me.
Yeah. And you're looking fantastic on it. I want to ask you, you've lived a wonderful and fulfilled life. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but do you have any regrets? Is there anything that you still left to do?
No, I can't say I have any regrets. As I said, I had maybe relationships that didn't work, and I'm glad they didn't work. I at the time now, I no, when I left Ghana, when I decided I was going to leave Ghana and return back to the West,
Mm-hmm.
I think my spiritual advisor thought that I should, or I just needed a break, but
Mm-hmm.
I decided that I should leave.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've written the book and I'm on my way back to Ghana, and I really don't know what the Lord has in store for me. But
Yes.
I just know that whatever it is, it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm making plans to come back and
Yes.
go back to the West, but I don't know how it's going to work out. So I tried not to second guess.
Yeah.
I try to live every day as if it's my last,
Yeah.
because I really don't know it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And just that peace of mind that you get from knowing that this could be your last day, and therefore you must enjoy to do the right things. Is works for me anyway.
Definitely. You are such an inspiration, and thank you so much for being on the show. You said so many nuggets actually, and that was one of them. So live it your every life as if it could be your last. But do you have one final bit of guidance or sort of action note that our viewers and listeners can take away with them?
Mine, of course, is love.
Mm-hmm.
That love is the answer. Okay. I know people define love differently, but I'm not talking about selfish love. I'm talking about love of God, following in Jesus's footsteps, and loving your neighbor and loving others, treating them as you would like them to treat you. That those are very, very important things. And they they bear rewards. You get the rewards, the joy of giving, the joy of living, the joy of sharing.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much, Dr. Price, for being on the show today. It's been fantastic. And that's it for the Dawn Jarvis Show today. I hope you enjoyed it and hearing about the life of Dr. Price. And hopefully, if you like what you hear or see, like, share, subscribe, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.